our next storytellers are Dana and Martin. So Dana grew up in Cottonwood, Arizona. She has traveled to more than 35 countries and is always planning on her next trip to feed her wanderlust. And Marty is from Kansas and grew up in the streets, down the street from Dorothy and Toto. So guess what? He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. So I can brag a little bit about them. So they are the founders of the Surprise Date Challenge. They assist couples in keeping the romance and passion alive in their relationships by planning one surprise date a month. So even though this sounds like it's for couples, it's also for singles. So I've actually taken on their lead and started dating myself. So recently I went on a date. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of those places where you go and you smash things. Yeah, I went to one of those where I was throwing glass and smashing things with a baseball bat, and I sound angry, but I'm really not. It was just really, really fun. So, and then I went to Lolo's Chicken to treat myself afterwards. So that was my first date of dating myself. So please help me welcome to the stage, Dana and Marty.
Hi there, I'm Dana because we both have unisex names. I just thought I'd let you know that.
So I would be, Marty. Marty. Hello, good evening.
So, going back to 2015, I had not been lucky in love. So I had ended a 13-year marriage. Then I met a really amazing guy who gave up Newport Beach for Phoenix and moved here. And 6 weeks after he moved here, he started getting fevers, chills, night sweats, and became really ill. And it took a few months for us to figure out that he had leukemia. And I quickly turned from a lover into a caregiver for 8 months until he passed away. During that time, a really great friend of mine kept inviting me to this group called Raise Vibration, which was all about the community, raising our vibe and being positive and having great experiences. And I finally was able to make it to this group and fell in love with the founders, Joel and Diane, who are amazing. And I kept asking Joel and Diane, don't you know any really great guys? Because I really wanted to find the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And I know exactly the date. It was actually April 1st, 2015. Joel said, actually, Diane and I have been talking, and we think we have somebody we'd like to introduce you to. And they had only known me for 2 years, and they had known Marty for about 10 years. And I also had to ask Diane on April 10th, hey, I heard that there's this guy you wanted to introduce me to. And she was a little bit reluctant. I think she was worried that Marty was going to break my heart. And knowing where I had been from, because he had been a bachelor for a very long time.
Forever.
And so we had our very first date on April 14th of 2015. And I call Marty my adorkable. This is a picture from our very first date at Hillstone, where we just met for a cocktail. And in October, he bought this pillow for me. You want to read to him what it says?
April 14th, 2015. Our first date at Hillstone, our first kiss in your garage, the beginning of our story, the adventure of a lifetime. I love you, I love us.
So Marty's super romantic, and I have to tell you, he picked this up at his mailbox, and one of his good friends was in the car, and his mom, and his friend was really ribbing him about this pillow, but I love it. It does sit on our bed. My sons think it's creepy, but he's my adorkable.
So the first date, that first night, and I'm curious, does anybody have an anniversary this evening? No? Will you indulge us that on the count of 3, because Dana and I celebrate April 14th on our anniversary actually every month. So the 14th of every month, we celebrate. And up till now, we've probably given each other over 500 cards.
Cards
In fact,
and boxes of cards.
here's this one for today, and for Valentine's Day and our anniversary. So if you could indulge me on the count of 3, if everyone could just say happy anniversary, that would be awesome. So 1, 2, 3.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you.
Thank you. It's 58 months.
58 months since we met. So
We're just
I know a lot of
beginning.
people say 58 years, but we're just getting started. But
We
too
couldn't
much.
help it.
Right. So that night, one of the things that I mentioned on here in our pillow is our first kiss in the garage. You want to kind of tell them a little bit about what led up to that?
Well, unfortunately, I had rear-ended somebody the day before our first date, so my car was in the shop, and I took an Uber, and so he dropped me off at home, and I just said, hey, do you want to come in? I had a 2-story townhouse, so I knew it was safe. He came in the kitchen, and he's a neat freak. I had no idea. Thank God the housekeeper had just come, because I have 2 teenage boys. And he was really nice. We talked for a moment, and I walked out into the garage, and he walked to his car, and he opened his door, and then he turned around and looked at me, and I was waving.
Right, and I had given her the perfunctory kiss on the cheek, and being a true gentleman, was going to go home and then certainly call her the next day. But something compelled me when I looked back and saw her in that dress, right? And you got to remember, when we met for the first time, I just knew a little bit about her, but there was this immediate trust because of our mutual now friends, Joel and Diane, that, as Dana said, I'd known a decade. And one of the great things at Hillstone, what I realized, besides her being remarkably beautiful on the outside, is that mentally, spiritually, emotionally, we were like so in tune and in sync. Now, I like to think of myself as being relatively put together, and I don't know for any of the guys in the audience that when you meet someone and you get maybe a little tongue-tied and you really can't articulate your words. I was trying desperately to speak to her at the bar in a way that I was very nonchalant. But when I turned around in her garage, when I was getting ready to get in my car, I couldn't help myself. I walked back, I grabbed her, and I gave her a little bit more than a kiss on the cheek.
It was an amazing kiss, and afterwards he said, wow, I think I was holding my breath. And I said, oh my gosh, I was too. And we were both holding our breath during this kiss in the garage, which was amazing. And I called 2 of my friends afterwards and said, I met my future husband. Like, I've never been so sure of anyone that I had dated before, and I just knew he was the one for me. He, unfortunately, didn't know so well right away.
Yeah, I wasn't really quite as sure at that moment. I mean, trust me, there's something about and I might maybe revealing a little too much than I should, but there's something in the kiss, and if you're someone that's a connoisseur of kissing, there's good kissing, and then there's really not so good kissing, and this was really good, mind you, but that in and of itself hadn't sealed the deal. And so fast forward a little bit, I've had a chance to meet her sons, and we're now a family, but I remember distinctly one afternoon of going to lunch, and Dana had walked in the restaurant. I was standing there talking to her boys at the time, were 16 and 11, and I asked the 11-year-old Harrison a question. He looked up at me and just walked away. And it was like, wait a minute, that didn't just happen, did it? And so there was this tug of war because subsequently Dana and I have traveled the world together. Been to all points of the world, and we travel famously. Our longest trip together, 23 straight days, when we were in India last year, we get along like, it's just truly remarkable. But the boys, a little different story.
Yeah, that's been a little bit of a challenge. So it hasn't been all rosy because life isn't. Life can be messy, right? And Marty doesn't have any kids of his own, and so that's been a little bit of an issue. But what's really amazing is that my boys really love him, they respect him, and he has stepped into the role of stepdad very, very well. I think everybody, including Marty, is very surprised.
Right, and then what happened in April of 2018? What did we go? Where did we go, and what did we do? Hint.
Oh. So we went to Turks and Caicos, and we had a commitment ceremony on the beach for our 3rd year anniversary.
Correct.
But also, we should talk about when we first started dating, we met in April, and in May, or a couple weeks after we met, Marty said, I have this really great idea, I think. I don't want to get bored in relationship like I usually do. I want our relationship to last a lifetime. You did say that.
I did.
And he said, I have this idea that we should plan one surprise date a month for each other. And he gave me a contract to sign. Saying that I would
legally
commit.
Binding, of course.
I would commit to planning one surprise date a month.
And it was kind of kitschy and really cool, actually, if I say so myself. But the idea was really simple. That, at least in my lifetime of dating, I was very, very good at the beginning stages and wooing a partner. And found that after everything I've articulated about Dana's inner and outer beauty, I knew immediately that this was a relationship that was going to last a lifetime. It was going to require something different from me on how I've shown up in the past. And so the element of novelty is so important in relationship. And so a month, almost to the day from when we met, I surprised her, because the whole idea of a surprise date is where your date doesn't know exactly what you're going to do. All they know is the time, what to wear, and especially for women, what shoes to wear. So we went...
Sitting shoes or standing shoes, right?
Right.
That's important.
And we went to Sur La Table at Fashion Square Mall.
And did an Italian cooking class.
We did.
And so that started every month. I mean, basically every month. Sometimes we do more than one date a month for each other. Even when we travel. When we were in Barcelona, I surprised him with a paella cooking class when we were in Barcelona in Christopher Columbus's house. Or in Paris, we did a bicycling tour. In India, we had this romantic dinner and a chartreuse. So we're always doing this as something really important to us. So a couple of years ago, I said, I think that we need to share this with the world and see if this will help other couples. So 2.5 years ago, we started Surprise Date Challenge, which is all about creating magical experiences for couples, one date at a time.
And it's just amazing, the response we've got. But the most important thing is for our own relationship and what it continues to do for us, and where it deepens our love and commitment for each other. And I got to say, I've never worn a wedding ring, and I've never been a big jewelry person. But on my right finger, and if you want to come up and introduce yourself, I'd love to meet you afterwards. Dana, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago now, took me on a surprise date jewelry making, and we each made rings. And she's got hers on, and I've got mine on.
Laura Jewelry and Gilbert, so you actually make your own ring, which is really cool.
And so I'm going to leave you with a little bit of magic on what works for our relationship that's made a huge impact, and maybe you'll see how you can incorporate some of it into your own relationship. I call it the ABCs. It's action, bonding, and communication, A, B, and C. Communication is vitally important. We all know that. I don't know if you're familiar with your love language. Dana is words of affirmation. And oh, by the way, you look stunning tonight. The B is about bonding and bonding rituals. And we have some individuals that are cancer thrivers in the audience. This is our favorite book, Mark Nepo, The Book of Awakening. And we read it each morning to each other, and it leaves a powerful impact on us. And then finally, the A for action is all around the surprise date, on where and how we show up for each other every month, bringing great levity, surprise, and adventure.
I have to read. So this is, he picked me up for a date, and he brought this as a gift on one of our very first dates. And so it says from April 2015, it says, Dana, I know you will enjoy the daily messages within as much as I have. So this has been a very special bonding ritual that we have, reading from the passages every day. So
thank you.
Thank you.